Hello, everybody. Tank needs to trim his mustache, and we're back.
Matt, Tank has stolen my gig. 3, 2.
Yeah. Right.
I just noticed it, like the high fidelity camera here. I'm like, oh, that's a little long than it should be.
I need
Sorry about
scissors.
that.
Stat.
Yeah. So we took some time off so that Galdagoon and I could go ahead and get married.
Which we did.
And now we're all legit and shit. We even got the license back from the county.
Ooh, nice.
So we're legal and the government knows.
Yeah.
Oh, so you shouldn't have told them. That's the problem.
Let me just tell you, it was way more fun with the sex before we were married.
What?
I'm kidding. Because then it was at least, sinful sex.
Oh.
The nice part is it's freed up a lot of our time, so we've actually had more sex.
This is also true. Dude, we totally broke the wedding rule tradition, and we had wedding night sex.
We did.
Oh, that's good.
I think 80% of couples don't do that because they're so tired.
That's probably true. I have no idea.
I had not heard that one.
Well, it's weird shit you learn when you're a bride planning stuff.
Yeah, I've heard from many people that just to be too tired and not to have the sex.
Oh, you're tired as hell, but I don't know. Too tired for sex, man. Jesus.
I don't know if I'm ever that tired.
I was not. I was so untired that I fucked her to sleep and then ordered $40 worth of McDonald's.
There you go.
True story.
Say cake, sex, and opening presents, and then I think then we fell asleep. Yeah.
No, we didn't do presents till the next day.
We're still eating cake.
Well, I treated it like a handheld at that point. I just picked up the part of cake and just started eating it.
I did do that this morning.
This does not surprise me. Okay, so we're married. We're back. Tank needs to trim his mustache. King Goon and the rest of the idiots got to beat Mark with pain sticks at the wedding.
That was fun.
So yeah, but because we've been gone for a while, there's a lot of shit to catch up on. But because we were all so busy with wedding stuff, we've also not seen all of the things that we would normally be talking about. So let's go ahead and jump into what I know the Goon brothers in particular are super excited about, and that is Doctor Who.
Did you see the updated logo?
No, I have not yet.
It's very, very, very retro.
No, is it?
It's very 1970s. So.
Oh, is it the box?
Yeah, it's that square.
The TD or the DW
so.
box.
I think so. Diamond. The episode itself wasn't great. The ending was really good.
I didn't mind the episode so much. It was better than I expected from Chibnall and company.
Yeah, I mean the writing was
that logo is very yeah.
The regeneration was pretty good.
Was it his final episode? Right. Okay.
Yeah, it was her final episode.
Yeah, it was hers and Chibnall's. They're both done.
We get RDJ back.
Yep. Yeah, the regeneration thing I thought was pretty cool. I hope that's not the last we've seen of Sasha as the Master, because he's almost perfect.
He was
just
really good.
Insane, absolute. He's so crazy that he captures that insane tremor in his voice when he's talking. It's like, and then I'm going to kill you, because he's so emotional about it. It's just awesome. I hope we get him again. Never say never, but it felt like that was it.
It would be cool to get at this point. You could do a whole master episode with all the great masters that we've had with the new stuff. Because John Sim was amazing too, and the Missy thing was pretty good.
I loved Missy.
I thought all three of them were great.
Yeah,
my favorite was the John Sim one.
Oh, John Sim was just great.
He wasn't super crazy. He was just terrifying. He was so pointedly evil. Like, no, I just want you to die. That's all I want. I just
very much a throwback to Tom Baker's Master, who just killed indiscriminately and just didn't even smile about it. It's like,
oh no,
gonna go and y'all gonna die. Oh, and we just lost him again.
No, we're still here. I'm just seeing if turning the camera off makes the audio work better.
I didn't
because you guys were starting to cut out.
No, that's weird.
So
technology is fun.
Yay!
We'll figure it out. Okay, so we were in the middle of Doctor Who, and then they thought they lost us. So
yeah, we were talking about the return.
We all know where it's going from here. We get, Donna's back. We've got, RDJ's coming back. We know who the next Doctor is, and I'm excited for him. We're going to have some Tennant action, and I think Smith is coming back for this one too, for the 60th.
I believe so.
I had heard that. I don't know if I had verified it, but I did hear it.
I mean, and so say what you want about the writing. There's something to the storytelling of Doctor Who that's just very repetitive. And so you're going to get some circular stories and that kind of thing. And Chibnall just went and tried to break the mold of what the story was without any backstory to it. And so I think you'll get a lot of things that return to normal, a lot of things that were made canon by the last writing team will still be canon, but will be back burner canon, although like the War Doctor, that kind of stuff. Where it's there, but we just don't pay attention to it. So I'm just interested to see where this goes, and we'll have till 2023 to figure that out.
I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be able to backburn Timeless Child. I think they have to flush it.
I'm hopeful.
They really flush much though.
No, but that's one that's like. The entire fandom, almost to a person, couldn't stand it.
Yeah, it's got to go. That's got to go.
Well, they might try and re-loop it and just play with it and
lock it in an alternate universe and.
Yeah, maybe. I honestly don't know.
Yeah, they do have that alternate universe Doctor running around already, so that could be a thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's already established. There's alternate universes. There's time outside of the universe.
Yeah.
There's so many things that they could play with to bury that somewhere. You're right that I think that part of the story has to go away, but they've got a lot of resources that they could do. And I was thinking about this. One of the adversaries that I'd love to see come back would be the dream guy, the Dream Lord.
Yeah, the Dream
Lord.
Him.
And I know it was a reflection of Matt Smith's Doctor and how much he hated himself, but it was just a fun character. I'd love to see that come back.
Mm-hmm.
As long as it's still Toby Jones, I'm cool with that.
Yeah, absolutely. He's fantastic.
It was very Mitzelplick, like
very much,
like the way he was portrayed and just the way he just kind of. He didn't necessarily bounce, but the way you felt like that character just kind of bounced around. It was very almost genie-like. I really liked a couple of things out of this episode. First of all, I was truly sad for Yaz. We've had like that love relationship with the Doctor before. We just look at the early Pond years. But that's really the first one where it was, the Doctor might just love her back, but it never really got to the point where it felt like that was going to be a thing that was going to happen. And I like the way they finished their story. I think I like the way that, Yaz is one of the few companions who could actually fly the TARDIS, and have the TARDIS listen to her. Like, that's really how that works. Nobody really flies the thing. They just ask it and it goes. And the other thing I really liked was a really subtle thing at the very end in the regeneration, when they chose.
I thought that was weird.
Well, that's not something that happens, right?
No.
It's never done that way.
Right.
He wakes
that's
up.
What I said.
That's why I was so that's okay. Now he's back to Tennant's dirty clothes or whatever.
Yeah, that's very intentional. Weird. They don't just do something like that, because
that's going to be part of the story.
Right. RDJ, well, I don't think he even got a credit for this. He had his fingerprints at least on the last 10 minutes. Yep. So that's going to lead into something. I'm sure it's going to have something to do with the forced regeneration backwards and forwards. There's going to be some play there, and I really like that touch there, just because it made it feel like, yeah, it's a regeneration, but like they're calling him 14, but right. So It's going to be really interesting to see the next 3 specials, how they play with it.
I think you're on the right path, and I think it leads to a path that is going to be sad for us as fans, but it'll be Tennant officially retiring as the Doctor, never to play it again. I think that there's some of that RDJ will play with emotions, and he didn't want to go the first time, that kind of thing, and so. That was his last words right before he regenerated. I don't want to go. Right. So I think they're going to play with that a little bit, and then they can officially put Tennant to bed and let him do his wife for the rest of his life.
Is that your plan, love?
Oh yeah.
The Doctor shagging the Doctor's daughter,
who is also
the Doctor's daughter. Right. You can't write that shit. It's
no.
So good.
The Georgia Tennant thing is just crazy.
Oh, it's hysterical. Absolutely hysterical. I do have one small quibble. When they
it wouldn't be you unless you did.
Right. When they did the bit where she was regenerated but hadn't quite left, and she was talking to all the other doctors.
Oh yeah.
How hard would it have been to get Sean Pertwee to dress up, put the wig on, and give us 3 for just a little bit? Because I've seen him in costume. He looks just like his father. I thought that would have been really cool if they could have pulled that off. I don't know if there are any discussions that just could make it work, whatever, but I thought that would have been pretty cool.
Yeah. Don't disagree.
See, it's a small quibble.
I'm slightly. You guys keep saying RDJ. Are you guys talking about Russell T Davies?
Oh yeah, RTD.
Oh yeah.
You guys keep saying RDJ, and I'm like, Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, Rob Van Dam.
Rob Van Dam. Rob, got to do the thumbs.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You guys mean Russell T Davies, though, right?
Yes.
So I'm not losing my mind
That's
here.
who we're talking about.
Okay, thank
Sorry,
you.
that's my fault. I used the wrong acronym. I started the whole thing.
I didn't want to jump in, but I was like, that doesn't. What?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm really glad I'm not the only one that was confused.
RTD.
It's Russell.
But not
I was super confused. I'm like, when did he take over as show writer? When did that happen? Holy shit, really?
Tony Stark write
That's
Doctor
wild.
Who?
Yeah.
I would be okay with that.
That'd be fine with it, but I don't know if he's a writer, really. I mean, he's done a couple things, but...
All right,
okay.
So moving away from Doctor Who, but since we're already talking about Iron Man, let's go ahead and stick with the Marvel Universe. She-Hulk.
I actually wanted to mention one more thing about Doctor Who real quick. Sorry.
Okay.
For those of us that live outside of the UK and Ireland, starting with the new season when it comes out in 2023, it's going to be on Disney Plus.
Really?
Yes, Doctor Who is going on to Disney Plus instead of BBC America.
How is that a thing?
I don't know, but it came out yesterday.
I didn't
Okay.
see that.
I'm assuming it's going to be on like the not safe for children aspect of Disney Plus.
I would assume so. I mean, they're not too aggressive about stuff, but probably.
Yeah, but I mean, some of the stuff that's on the not safe for children, side of Disney Plus is really fucking stupid.
True. I don't know, but I don't know if they're going to be doing the backlogs. I think the backlogs are still going to be on HBO Max, I believe. But the new episodes will start streaming on Disney Plus.
Well, that's why I'm so confused. If it's going to be split between the two different streaming services.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Well, I believe HBO Max is also going to be getting the new ones. I don't know what relationship they have with Disney Plus or how that happened, but apparently it's going to be on both, from my understanding.
That's cool.
Interesting.
And that's
Well,
only outside of the UK and Ireland, I guess.
I guess that means if one of our services starts being, stupid, we can
Again.
just flip to the other one.
Yep. But thought I should add that. I didn't know, people
That's
probably
interesting.
interested in
No,
that.
I hadn't heard that, so that's cool. Confusing, but cool.
Very confusing, but yeah.
I don't know if they would put that on the adult or the not for kids, because Doctor Who at its core is a kids show. That's its DNA. It does get a little spooky. It does get a little dark, but it's a kids show and always has been.
Okay, yes, but so is, Fraggle Rock.
Yeah, and that's on the adult side.
Really?
Mhm.
Well, I guess only grown-ups would watch it because kids wouldn't watch
Aristocats is on the adults only.
That's because those cats were whores.
It's actually the warning you get is because the cats are racist.
Oh shit! Really?
Yes.
Is
Cats are
Dumbo
racist?
on the adult side? Because they got some problematic scenes in that show too.
Yes.
Just a
Original
few.
Dumbo is on the adult side.
Okay, that's because of the crows.
I'm wondering
Yeah.
what the age restriction on that is, because they get very specific on their age restrictions.
I think it's 12.
Okay, that might make sense.
All right.
But I don't care. I'll log into my own profile so I can have my 6-year-old niece watch the things that she's not supposed to, because it's fucking Aristocats.
I'm trying to remember. We had to do that for something the kids watched the other day. I can't remember what it was, but we had to put it onto our profile because it wouldn't show up on the 7 or under thing, I guess.
Yeah, it's the way they have it done. Disney is super particular about what ages get to watch what. Ooh, sidebar while we're on Disney. Did you hear that because Disney is now being so inclusive that the state of Florida has taken away their
They're
what is it,
trying
their
very
township
hard to
or
take their
whatever?
copyrights. Yeah.
They're trying to remove all their copyrights and
Well,
All their
and
copyright protections and their tax
What they're-
breaks.
Disney could set their own laws for
Yeah.
what's happening on their property. They paid for their own fire department, water, sewage, all of that stuff. And now that Florida is going, you guys are just a little too liberal for us. They're wanting to take that away, or at least the Republican side of Florida is. And the people who live around Disney are going, screw you, because then that will increase our taxes and we'll have to pay for all that shit.
Specifically, what happened is DeSantis is an asshole, to start there. And then he's trying to push that don't say gay thing. And Bob Chapek said he was going to stay out of it initially. He's like, that's a political issue that has nothing to do with us, blah, blah, blah. And then apparently, because they kept pushing it, sorry, for those who don't know, Bob Chapek is the CEO of Disney currently. But since they kept pushing all this crap, he said, okay, you know what? Now I'm actively going to fight against you. And basically decided that Disney is going to actively fight against the don't say gay law. And that's why DeSantis has decided that he's going to take away all of Disney's protections and copyrights and all of the stuff that they have.
Disney is basically considered its own municipality inside of Orlando.
Yeah.
That's the core of the whole thing, that they're just trying to yank that bit of it. And then
Yep.
there's
Yeah.
also a bit of a money grab here too, right?
Oh,
It's-
yeah.
that it's an excuse to try to get some more cash, is in addition
Well,
to being able to grandstand on this issue. And it's just, shut up, dude. It's just come on, DeSantis.
Well,
Let's
and
go.
it's a very, very obvious, political
Oh yeah,
slam.
100%.
They're very obviously like, oh, you don't believe us? Well, we're gonna take it out on you now. It's like, oh, that seems like illegal, but let's see what happens. I'm gonna put my money on Disney being more powerful than the state of Florida, to be
Yeah, oh,
honest.
yeah.
They also,
Oh, yeah.
Disney has the
I think-
world's third largest navy, right?
Yeah.
it's a fact. It's China, then America, Disney, then Russia.
That's hilarious and sad all at the same time.
Where do the Scientologists fit in all that? Because they've got some boats too.
That's true. I didn't even think about them.
What do they call that thing? Sea Corps? With a billion-year contract?
That's a risky endeavor to sign that kind of a contract.
Yeah.
Yep.
Better hope you're right.
All right, so She-Hulk.
Yes.
Before I decided to tangent the fuck out of us. Thoughts?
Go ahead, Tank.
I enjoyed the series very much. It did what I wanted it to do, to be honest, which is kind of play with the absurdity of the character. Because she breaks the fourth wall. She is constantly manic. All of those things are all part of that story. The only issue that I ran into was how they ended it. How they ended the season was a little iffy to me. Just because I actually would have liked to see the big fight between her and Abomination. And, I would have liked to see that actually play out a little bit more than it did, and just have her break the fourth wall and basically end the season like that. But
then
up to
this
that,
actually started the season.
yes, but
I mean, I kind of see how it went full circle.
it did go full circle. And like I said, I understand kind of why they did it. I'm one of those people, I guess, I like the big finale fights. So to have that taken away basically right at the beginning of that fight is kind of irritating. But I understood why they did it. It would have been, I don't know. I think it would have been more entertaining for them to follow through. And then, you can still do the fourth wall break and all of that stuff. But I think cutting off where they did was unnecessary.
If you think
Fair
about
enough.
it, not having that fight fit the tone of the whole series too, though, right?
Well,
I mean,
it did.
right? They weren't really heading to that kind of a showdown. When you have something like that at the end of one of these Marvel shows, it's built to. Like, it's all coming to this, and there's going to be this big knockdown drag out between the two Hawkeyes and Kingpin, and it's all going to come down to this in the final episode, and you can just feel it coming. When they started the very brief build up to that abortive finale, and then before they pulled the plug and went, and I'll talk about what I liked about that last bit here in a minute. It just felt disconnected. Like, this isn't where this was going. I mean, we weren't supposed to have, I didn't think, the big fight between Abomination and She-Hulk, because there wasn't a whole lot of dramatic tension to build up to it. Like, there wasn't a thing we even thought maybe would happen. Emil was doing his thing. He was, he's trying to change himself. He's breaking the rules a little bit, but he's got some help. He just wasn't like that big bad in the whole series like we generally get when you have something like that in the finale of one of these series.
I don't disagree with that part. But I wouldn't say there was no buildup. The penultimate episode was her finally hulking out. And
yeah, but Tank just wants to see them fight.
Yeah, I don't necessarily say it would have to be with A-Bomb, I guess. That's fine. It's not with A-Bomb, but the douche that stole her blood, maybe go there, you know.
That would have been fun.
Beat that guy's ass a little bit.
That would have been
not,
fun,
you know.
Sure. Did
Because
anybody else
set up a fight? They set up a fight with the penultimate episode. Her, blowing her fucking top after they expose all of her bullshit in front of everybody.
Right. Did anybody else
snapping and kicking the shit out of that guy is perfectly in line with what should have happened.
That was good. Did anybody else notice that the Kevin robot had a little baseball cap built into it over the eyes?
Yes.
I thought that was so good.
I like the semi-live rounds going at Kevin Feige, which was pretty funny.
Right. And I really enjoyed the series as a whole. I thought it was a good, lighthearted. It didn't have a whole lot of, dramatic depth, and I don't think it should have. It was supposed to be more of a legal comedy, for lack of if you want to put a label on it. But I enjoyed the way it was portrayed. I've always been a huge fan of Tatiana, even going back to Orphan Black. I enjoyed it from beginning to end, and they did a great job of setting some other stuff up. And it was just, I think it was really well done, all things being equal.
I'm hoping that this is just the start of us seeing the mainstream, Avengers being more involved with the small screen shows. I know that we got Barton in Hawkeye, but this time we also got Bruce Banner. And just really seeing how it all ties together.
I will say there was that other part that kind of irritated me. Why did they make Scar look like such a douche? I like Scar.
He kind of looked like he belonged on Jersey Shore for a minute.
That's what I thought. I was like, what the fuck is up with this Jersey Shore version of fucking Hulk?
I didn't even think about that until you said it, but now it's perfect.
He looked like a douche. He didn't look like the badass Scar from the comic books at all. He looked like a fucking weirdo who just showed up to the wrong party.
Well, and going back to that Avengers thing, they took an entire series to build up a new Captain America. So there's a lot of that, I think, coming, and there's going to be, I think, a lot more of the back and forth and crisscross and cross pollination. We had, they set up the next phase in Loki when they set up Kang. So I think there's going to be a lot more of that going back and forth. I think it's going to be really cool.
Well, and it's now said that all of the shows that are on Disney Plus, I think we talked about this briefly last time we were all together. That's considered canon now.
Oh yeah,
correct.
Yep.
Whereas like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., when that came out, that was not part of canon.
No, like parts of it.
It was for like the first 2 seasons, and then they ripcorded. I think it broke at Civil War, and once they got away from the Civil War storyline on the big screen, and then it kind of separated and did its own thing, and then they went in outer space. And
I'd say even before that, it felt like it really fell off when they were doing the. The second Captain America.
I love how Tank just has a whole conversation by himself.
Right.
Yeah. The Winter Soldier thing, when they exposed everyone's secrets and basically destroyed S.H.I.E.L.D. and all of that stuff. I think even then was a big cutoff where they kind of took it in 2 different directions. But, yeah. They're setting up some cool stuff. Just Scar looks like a douche.
It took me a minute when you first said Scar is a douche, and I was like, dude, that's your kid.
My kid is a douche sometimes, but that's besides the point. I love her to death, but There's some criminal intent in that child sometimes.
Sometimes. She is her mother's daughter. All right. Let's stick with the MCU. And there's a new Ant-Man trailer that recently dropped. And I'm really excited about watching this one. But really, I'll watch anything with Paul Rudd. I made Mark watch Clueless last
We
night.
watched Clueless last night.
You poor bastard.
In fairness, he slept through Clueless last night.
I
There
like
you
Don't
go.
Put Lights On, but that's about the only thing that I enjoy.
This is what happens when you give me the remote.
Clueless.
Dude, the 90s are back. I don't know if you've seen what fashion is doing, but holy shit balls. Yellow plaid is in, my friends, and it should never be. Okay, so anyways, Ant-Man.
Hard pass. Yeah, Ant-Man. The trailer, I really am excited for this movie. We're going to get Kang, clearly. That and Tank and I were talking about it briefly before we pressed go. That scene in the trailer where he just kind of floats down and he's got the blue face. I'm like, oh, it's gonna be so good.
Oh yeah, that was really really cool. Every time he shows up, it just tickles me in the best possible way. I love how they're kind of slow rolling all these different variations of Kang.
You need to write that hashtag down. Tickles me.
What do you think she's doing?
Tickling me in the right way.
I mean, we kind of knew what was going to happen to a certain extent because just the thing. But when I saw that trailer, I out loud said, "Holy shit, that's awesome!" Because they decided to, we get the city and everything when they get pulled into the quantum tunnel thing that they have, their little quantum box.
Yep.
That was really cool how they did that.
He's getting tickled in his quantum box.
Yes.
Where you want to be tickled is right in the quantum box.
Sounds like the best way to get it. I mean,
hashtag right in the quantum box.
I think that all of the movies that are lined up and the shows that are lined up for this next phase of the MCU are looking really good. But this is one that I'm really excited about.
yeah, I like where it seems like they're going with the story.
Yeah. I put my trust in Feige. I put my trust in Feige, and so we'll see what happens.
Let's see what happens.
We'll see what happens.
Right. While we're on Disney Plus, what the fuck is Werewolf by Night?
It is
like
awesome.
I watched the trailer,
it is awesome.
It's amazing.
Very confused.
It's so good.
It's so good. They do such an awesome callback to the old Universal monster stories.
Okay.
It is so cool how they tell this story of this hunt. All these people are on for this unknown creature. And they do such a good job of introducing Werewolf by Night, first of all, and then just the Bloodstone family and all. It's so cool.
It's really interesting the way they filmed it.
Yeah.
It's
Mark was very excited about it. I was very confused.
It's super, like, even in black and white with a splash of red they put in it, it's super beautiful to watch. Just the visually, it's. I didn't think you could do that with a black and white film, even if you splash some color on it. We've seen like the Sin City bits.
That's what I was going to say.
Stuff, but
seemed slightly inspired by the Sin City stuff because it wasn't as comic book splash page as much, but you get this just a couple of moments where the color bleeds through on the black and white movie, and it's really cool how they do it.
I'm really excited for it.
It's amazing. Yeah, it is worth a watch. It's only, what was it, like 40 minutes, 45
it's
minutes,
not
something
long.
like that.
It's not long
I think
at
it's
all.
55 according
55,
to
yeah.
what
Okay.
the thing said, which is the only reason we didn't watch it before we recorded tonight, because we only had 40 minutes.
Yeah, it is very much worth a watch. Just because it is I mean, they're finally getting deeper into the dark side of Marvel, into the dark part of the universe where all the creepy crawlies and monsters are hidden.
That's
And
the
it's
fun
really
side.
cool.
I like that they're not just, covering everything with rainbows and sunshine. And
Oh no, this is very much it's not scary in a traditional sense, but it is
No.
it's presented as a classic horror movie.
It's
well,
it's
then I
spooky.
guess
It's
we know what we're
spooky.
watching later.
It sure does look like a Vincent Price type movie.
Yeah, it's more spooky than scary. It's got good action. It does have not necessarily gore, but gruesome to it. Especially in a
little.
couple of a little bit like with the arrow, right? I mean, there's just some stuff like
Hey!
"Ugh, that.
We're
Hey,
watching it.
I didn't spoil a thing.
No, he didn't spoil anything.
Yeah,
I didn't even tell you the
There's
best
a
part of
weapon
it.
Right.
I did
during a
not even
hunt.
tell you the best part of it. I will not tell you the best part of it. Watch it.
All right. Well, then we'll discuss it at family dinner on Sunday.
Sounds good.
Okay. Instead of watching Werewolf by Night, we decided to put on the Stories of the Jedi, which is also on Disney Plus. And each short is like 10 to 12, maybe 15 minutes max. And it is just,
quick hitters.
Yeah.
Get in, tell a story, get out.
But they're good.
They're great. Definitely leaves you wanting more.
The very first one is Ashoka, and to which my loving husband says, I thought she was getting her own show. Where's my girl? Rosario Dawson is coming back next year.
That's still coming.
I got a little scared that my girl wasn't going to come back to the television.
I was like, this is just baby her. And it's all animated, but
it's really good.
Would you say it's better or worse than Star Wars Visions? Because I really enjoyed Star Wars Visions.
I haven't watched much of Visions, but this is a fun one because it's showing kind of the backstory of how we get these two characters to develop the way that we wanted to. And the one character is Ahsoka, and then the second character is Dooku. And so you get to see him in the first episode with his Padawan, and then with a fellow Jedi Master in the second, which is the third episode, actually. And you get to see him kind of becoming who he is in the prequels. And I really enjoy it. It's just really interesting to see the backstory and how they can get in and tell so much of a story in, less than 20 minutes and get out. It's just unbelievable. And you get the full feeling of the two Count Dooku episodes have just been so dark and, brooding, and, he's ready to snap because you've seen him snap in the movies. So this is him getting to the point where he's going to snap. And it's really, really fascinating.
So is it like kind of like Bad Batch then?
A little bit, but it specifically follows the storyline of those two characters. There's episodes with Ahsoka and there's episodes with Count Dooku, and they're going back and forth and telling the backstories of how these two people came to be where they were, in which part of the roles. For Ahsoka, it's going to Clone Wars, and for Dooku, it's Clone Wars and the sequels, or the prequels, I should say. So it's telling the stories of how these. It's really cool because they're everything that Star Wars is doing now is pocket universes inside of that universe, and they're just fascinating, and you can tell. I mean, I have a good sense that they're all gonna mesh up at some point, but you also get some Mace Windu, which is awesome.
Is it?
I just have one question. Do we
Yeah.
get the genesis of the curved handled lightsaber?
No, they just started him with it,
Okay, fair enough.
but it is not red yet.
There is
Well,
a story to that, though. Actually, it's
There
based
is,
on his
but
fighting
they
style.
don't tell that story in this.
Okay.
No, they don't. I haven't told that story in any of the even big screen or small screen. I don't think.
Yeah, by the time we get Dooku in this, he's already basically a Jedi Master. And so he's got a very young and weird-looking Liam Neeson. And then in the second episode, it's Mace Windu with the biggest eyebrows I've ever seen.
Is it?
What they did for the animation for this is they're trying to make them look very similar to the actors who portray them the way that we know them. But they're
Oh, it
also
looks like Samuel L. Jackson.
yes, but they're taking one feature and they're exaggerating it. So like for Qui-Gon, his nose is just ginormous and square. Right?
Is it Samuel L. Jackson voice acting?
I don't think so.
It
Damn it!
could be.
Will you check?
It could be.
You have a tiny little computer in your hand.
I hope
This
so.
good show.
GTS.
Jedi stories or stories of the Jedi, something like that.
Stories of
That's
the
Tales
Jedi.
of the Jedi.
I will tell you in a minute. Okay.
Okay. So,
Well-
but anyways, worth a watch. You know,
10 total stories.
seeing tiny baby Ahsoka is really adorable.
So is Ahsoka? Is it the original Ahsoka or not? Who did the Clone Wars?
Well, this is just baby so far.
So far, there
Okay.
has been no speaking other than some babbles.
Yeah.
Okay.
But she does have the most amazing superpower of all time, and that is the nose boop.
She's got the boop down.
Like there's a creature getting ready to like eat her face, and she boops its nose, and then it stops, and it's just like, okay, baby, you're in charge now.
So, updates for you. Liam Neeson is actually Qui-Gon.
That's cool.
But Terrence C. Carson is playing Mace Windu.
Oh, interesting.
There's also a young Qui-Gon. And then, of course, Ian McDermott, just doing the Ian McDermott thing. And then this guy named Corey Burton, who I've never really heard of, is going to be your Count Dooku. I don't know what he's famous for. But you also, and I stopped it before we started this, because I think my mind is going to break. Because in this very next episode, we get Yaddle.
Awesome.
Oh, nice.
And you can
That's
see
cool.
the preview of the show if you go watch the trailer. Yaddle actually does some fighting in the show. So I'm fucking super stoked to actually see what Yaddle does.
That's interesting. Maybe we end up getting Grogu's backstory through Tales. That'd be interesting.
I don't know, maybe. But I mean, I've been, this, like we said, they're like 10 to 15 minute episodes, but the first 3 were awesome. And I can't wait to see what Yaddle does.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I know what I'm watching next.
I have a feeling that Mark will burn through those before I get off work tomorrow.
Maybe.
I have a feeling I'm going to burn through those tonight.
Yeah, that's definitely a strong possibility.
And if they're only 15 minutes each, I can.
Yeah, I can knock a few of those out over a
Yeah.
seltzer.
Right?
Super cool.
All right.
I can't wait to watch it then.
So shows that have episodes that are much longer, and I've honestly been having a hard time getting into, and that is House of the Dragon.
Oh,
Oh man.
so good.
She's been she hasn't really enjoyed it, and I watched the first couple, and now I want to wait till it all comes out. And apparently, now Matt says it's all out.
It's
So,
out now, yeah.
Yep.
Gonna
Season
have to go
finale
watch
was
it.
Sunday.
Yep.
In my defense, it was on in the background while I was doing wedding planning.
Yeah.
Sure.
That
Kind of,
season
and it's
finale.
one of those things you have to watch and pay attention to because, and I think it's even the first 4 episodes, there's a fairly significant time jump, and you have to pay attention to the clues that they give you to kind of get an idea of how long it's been, because they don't. There's one episode where they actually come out and say how long it's been since something happened, so you know, because they can't. They'd already aged all the characters to adults, and had changed all the casting like they were going to do.
Right. They dumped 90% of the cast.
Well, yeah, because they're not 15 anymore. Now they're 35.
Right.
Which is understandable. I will give them that it's understandable, but I am a little bit disappointed with them dropping Millie Alcock, because she was awesome as
Oh,
Princess
she was great,
Mara.
but she couldn't have played.
She could
that
not play
role.
the
No.
30-year-old version
No,
of
she could not.
Rhaenyra.
Have.
No,
She was amazing. Absolutely,
but she did
amazing.
such an
Agreed.
amazing job for
Right.
those first few episodes.
I will also say, as far as casting goes, like as a whole, they nailed everybody. Like, I was excited for Matt Smith to be a Targaryen. Holy shit!
What a
Like-
prick he is.
God, I know, and it's so good.
It's amazing, but he is such a bastard.
Yeah, the phrase in Game of Thrones lore is every time a Targaryen is born, the gods flip a coin, and that's how they decide whether or not he's going to be nuts or not, because they're all inbred. And that coin flipped a few times in this series, and I mean between Aemond, Aegon, there's just so much like insanity running through this family that we knew was there, right? I mean, all you had to do was watch the first season of Game of Thrones, and you can see the 2 versions of Targaryen that you get, like just with Daenerys and her brother, and they absolutely nailed the casting. And the other thing I'll say is this: I didn't think that there would ever be a house that was prettier than the Targaryens. The Valerians are the shit. Let me just tell you that right now. That is pretty house. Corlys is hot. I don't care who you are. I mean, with the braids and the beard, like, Jesus, city steak, stop it.
Yeah, Steve Toussaint is the guy that plays Corlys, and he is a very attractive man. That is crazy.
God,
how pretty they made that family.
All of them.
So small sidebar talking about pretty people in Game of Thrones. Did you guys see the pictures of Jason Momoa and his thong fishing?
I did not.
I'll have to send him to the group. I saw it on something yesterday, but he's just in like a barely Speedo thong,
Loincloth.
thing, and he's catching fish. I believe it's in Hawaii, and it's pretty good. Right. I just look at him. I'm like, yeah, I get why women love him.
But yet, I would say if you enjoyed Game of Thrones, even if you didn't like the final season, which I understand some people's perspective on the final season, this is very much worth the watch just to kind of see how this family started at such a high point with Aegon the Conqueror and how they get to the point where they are with Daenerys and it would be Viserys the Fourth. Is that her brother?
Yeah.
At the beginning of Game of Thrones.
Right. Well, and there's a whole other block of horse shit that I don't know they're going to get to in the series with the Blackfires. So that's a whole other realm of insanity and bastards that the story's there. I just don't know if they're going to tell that story here because it's instead of 300 years ago, it's like 80 years
just
ago.
Look at the pictures.
Yes, I did.
Oh, I didn't.
Oh my God.
I mean, like I said, I understand the
Jesus.
women fantasizing about this guy. Jesus
Well,
Christ.
sure. And to Tank's point, if you enjoyed Game of Thrones, this is Game of Thrones storytelling at its best.
I think this is
It's
better.
A season in, I put it up against season 3 of the original series, because season 3 I think is the best of the seasons.
Especially the political machinations at play are very intense.
Right. And George R. R. Martin is at his heart a child of the Vietnam era and a hippie, and the allusions to World War and nuclear weapons and all the political bullshit that happens when men get in charge of things have been a huge part of everything that he's written, not just the Thrones bit. And that's all woven beautifully into this story. And the last 10 minutes of this show, Jesus God Almighty.
They want you to feel that last 10 minutes in a big way.
And you do, man. I watched it last night, stone sober, mind you. I watched it last night, and I'm on the edge of my seat going, no.
Oh, yeah.
And then that thing, and I'm like, oh, so good.
And Matt Smith as Daemon, he definitely there is the psychopathic part of him that you can kind of see is that madness, the Targaryen madness, but there is such a calculating and decisive part of him that is so smart and so driven that even as crazy as he is, he knows exactly what he's doing. And that's what it drags parts of the stories deeper into it. Like, he is able to pull these little parts from the edges into the middle, and it's intense how he does it.
The Targaryens, even on the insane side, you've got like the Viserys 4, and you've got Aegon 2, the Mad King, or Aerys.
Oh, Aegon, jeez.
That man was
what a shit pile.
Absolutely, lit people on fire. Come on.
Yeah, watch it.
There's also there's also the psycho, but like serial killer smart. That's
Aemon.
what Matt Smith plays,
and Aemon
and Aemon, right? And
yeah,
I've always said that one of the things I really enjoyed the most about Matt Smith as the Doctor was when his eyes would almost turn black when someone would threaten his people. And his head would tilt just a little bit, and it didn't matter if it was a Cyberman or the Master or the Daleks or whatever, and he would just, I'm going to end you. And you get more of that depth. He's gotten better at that part in this series, and it's spectacular. I highly recommend Duchess that you go back and watch from the beginning when you can sit down and then absorb the episode, and don't binge it. Give yourself a break, come back to it a day or so later and watch the next one, because this is every bit as good as I hoped it would be. And being, I think, the biggest Game of Thrones nerd on this panel,
yes,
and having the depth of knowledge about just the entire story,
because you've read all of them, right?
Oh yeah,
I've only read 3.
I have not read all of them yet.
Yeah. First 5 I've read each at least 4 times.
That beats
working my way through Fire and Blood, but it's spectacular.
And the mentions, I love the little mentions of the familial connections that we know about now. Like we get the Baratheons, and we get the Starks, but none of them are the same names. It's all the same surnames, and you're like, oh shit, okay, that explains a lot.
Yeah, you get the Aarons and the Tullys, and
you get explanations for why things are the way they are at the beginning of the original Game of Thrones.
Watching this season is going to make me want to rewatch Thrones.
It made me start rewatching it. I started rewatching as soon as I finished the finale. I started rewatching the series again. Because I was like, that makes so much sense about, just these little connections.
Mark has said the same thing about Andor. because we were having a hard time getting into that one at first because they're in like the first 2 episodes, they're throwing like 800 new characters at you in this whole different side of things. So I had to go back in, rewatch it.
Yeah, I said you watch the first 3 episodes, start over, watch the first 3 episodes again, and then you're good to go. And it's the second time through, it's much more interesting because you're actually following the characters and not waiting for a cameo the whole time. And it made the show much more watchable because you know you're not waiting around the corner for fucking, Jar Jar Binks's grandfather to pop in or, fucking the Cantina band to be hopping around the corner, buskering in the street. You're just the first 3 episodes like, all right, where's the Star Wars? And then I went back and watched it again. I'm like, this is really fucking good.
It's just a really good story.
Yeah, it's a great story.
It's such a good story, and it makes me, God, this is gonna hurt a lot of people's feelings. The TV aspect, the streamer shows. At this point, after watching through Andor for, I guess it was season or episode 8.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
Though they're much better than the movies.
Oh yeah.
It's absurd.
Yeah.
The level of
you're
storytelling.
not wrong. However, I mean, you can't have any of this without 4, 5, and 6. Right.
I
think we
understand.
can. I think
Nobody
we
can
flush-
touch 4, 5, or 6, right?
I
Like,
think we can
we're not
flush.
putting that up against.
Okay, I'm
Nobody's
not.
putting that up against 4, 5. No, well, mostly 4 and 5. Like obviously, those 3 movies created this whole universe that we're still going into, right? So it's not a comparison. But if you look at the story writing over the last 20 years, the big screen stuff has been garbage, and the changes Lucas made, slightly before the last 20 years, that was garbage. And now somebody is actually taking this and giving it back to the fans and writing stories to fill gaps. And, Rogue One was amazing. That's the only story that actually really fucking mattered in the last 20 years. All the other stories just filler to me. And so getting that character who we knew so little about, pulling him out and showing a little bit of what he went through to get to where he is awesome. And now that I get, again, you watch the first 3 episodes, you meet all these people, you're still confused, so you watch it again and you're like, all right, this, I can actually settle down and watch this. And it's been awesome. It's been great.
And let me clarify the point. Okay. Well, another controversial opinion. I didn't watch the original ones when they came out. The last one came out before I was born. Episode 6 came out before I was born. So my first Star Wars movie was Episode 1, Phantom Menace.
Poor bastard.
I actually liked that movie. The second one, the Attack of the Clones, was pretty terrible. And Jar Jar Binks was annoying the entire time. But
if you look at Jar Jar as a Sith, then it's way better.
If that ever happens, then I will be super happy to look at it that perspective. But until then, he's just an asshole who ruins
it's just a
decent storytelling.
Yeah, but that's the only way I can stomach him.
Yeah, but I all respect due to the originals, but those weren't my childhood. I didn't have those. My childhood was the prequel series. And all respect paid to those, but if those were written the same way that these were written, I would have something else to say about it, but they weren't. These are written, and they have the convenience of being able to tell this story across 10 episodes for each of these series. You're getting 10 episodes. You're getting a prolonged story that they can let play out.
This one's 12, isn't it?
Something like yeah, but I'm saying like
this one's longer. Yeah,
Mandalorian.
I completely understand what you're saying. Where when you can do basically a movie over the course of 12 and a half hours.
Exactly.
But you're breaking it into 1 hour segments or hour and 15-minute segments, whatever. It's a lot easier to do storytelling and to go into all of that, which is one of the things I know we've touched on the book front, where if a TV series is done right, with the book material, you can get so much more than if you're just like given, a 90-minute, 2-hour long movie.
Yeah. And those movies were good for what they were. But unfortunately, they are now trapped in time. They can no longer be anything besides what they are. That is what they are. They are
Not
those
unless
stories.
George Lucas has anything to do with it.
Well, he doesn't. He
Well,
doesn't anymore.
right? He out.
Well,
Um,
I mean, they're still changing. They still changed episode 4 again when they put it on Disney Plus.
yes, they
What
did.
the fuck is McClunky?
I don't know.
The fuck
But-
is McClunky, man?
I mean, let him say McClunky. Who the fuck cares?
But from
Look,
It just took me so aback when that happened. I was like, no.
here's-
Oh,
And from an impact perspective, all rights go to the original trilogy, not the prequel trilogy, but the original trilogy.
right.
They told stories in a way that we had never really experienced before. It was a whole new type of sci-fi adventure. It was brand new and it was huge, and it made a huge impact on movies. From then, it still has a lasting impact, but the storytelling is better in the streamer series than is in any of the movies, minus maybe Rogue One. Just from a storytelling perspective.
I may push back on Solo just a little bit. I really enjoyed Solo. But I mean,
still
it
agree
wasn't
with
as good. It wasn't as good as Rogue One, but I think it's better than a lot of people.
It's better than people give it just
right.
for the Lando portrayal.
Right.
Yeah,
Alone.
And I'll say this until the day I die. And I don't know if we Tank, you and I may have actually touched on this the last time you and I were together when we duoed the last time. I would love to see a Lando series with Donald Glover playing Lando
the entire time,
and Billy D narrating. I think that would just be fucking.
That would be pretty cool, actually.
Right?
I could get on with that. Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I'm still an advocate for the old Lando and Chewie adventures. Get Billy D and Lando and Chewbacca riding around in the Millennium Falcon.
Post
Last
Rise of the Skywalkers or whatever.
Yeah, Rise of
Skywalker. And they have what's her name going with them.
That'd be pretty cool. Did anybody else get, especially in the first couple of episodes, did anybody else get Blade Runner vibes off the cinematography?
From Andor?
From Andor.
Yeah,
That was the problem I had with it the most. Was I was like, this doesn't feel very Star Warsy, and it was just dark and creepy, and like very much. And I guess that's technically kind of Star Wars, but it's never been there this prominent before, where it was very cyberpunk, and very Blade Runner, and that was part of I'm like, all right, when's Star Wars going to kick in? And then once I realized that wasn't going to happen, I started to settle in and enjoy developing these characters more.
Right,
It was
and
more enjoyable that way.
One of the things they've never really done, which I think makes Andor so good, among the many things that make it really good, but one of the things they've never really done is they've never really touched on the plight of the common person under the Empire. Right. And that very much, in addition to the imagery, but very much, has that Blade Runner kind of, small universe kind of feel to it. Like you knew that you knew that Rutger Hauer had been off on different planets and was doing different shit, and he saw, moons and whatever. That's the speech at the end, right? They never have really talked about what it's like for Joe Blow to labor under the Empire's thumb, and the way that those things that the Empire did affected the common man and common woman. And that's one of the brilliant things of this, is you actually are now seeing why. And everybody knew the Empire was bad, right? They're evil. They're all British, whatever. But nobody really understood like the impacts of what the Empire were actually doing in the nuts and bolts. And there's a scene which I think is absolutely brilliant, and I don't think you guys have gotten to it yet, but there's a scene where something happens and then some Empire people get together and they do some very Empire things around the table, right? Tank knows what I'm talking about.
So much. Like when that happened, what I started thinking about was, this is what would happen in Star Wars if George Orwell wrote it.
Yeah.
Well, I know what you're talking about. I did get to that.
Like
Okay.
this is George Orwell writing
Right.
Star Wars. Like this is very much that 1984,
Yeah.
Big Brother's watching everything you're doing kind of a
It
thing.
definitely had a V for Vendetta feel to it at that
Mhm.
point.
Yeah, and I
I
think
loved that.
that's part of the genius of the entire show is that we're looking at it at a story from a very granular level, as opposed to Star Wars generally is a very big, like
Large.
30,000 foot view. Everything that everybody does impacts everything so wildly because they're all bigger than life and giant heroes and giant villains, and everything's just big. This is not that. I mean, even Mandalorian and Boba Fett, the worlds that those shows lived in were not quite as big as 4, 5, 6 or 7, 8, 9 or any of the rest of this like big impactful stuff, but they're still big worlds, right? I mean, Mando goes from planet to planet to planet to planet to planet, and
Mhm.
ships blow up and things happen and all this stuff. This is very granular, very small scope of a story that is so well done and so well constructed, not only from just the writing, but then again the casting, and then the way they kind of put it all together and put it up on the screen. It's becoming one of my favorites of the small screen stuff.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
it-
pretty
it's
good.
And
really
that's
good.
what I really enjoyed about Obi-Wan is they really were showing the basics.
Telling
Like
a very personal story. Yeah.
Right.
yeah,
Right.
like working in the factory or
And if you like the stuff that they do to the common people, wait till you watch the show we talked about before that, the stories of the Jedi, because the Count Dooku stuff, you see why he's turning away from the council and the Senate and stuff in the shows, and it has a lot to do with the portrayal of the common man in these shows.
That makes
Cool.
sense. That's kind of
That's
cool
cool.
too. That makes me
Very
want to
cool.
watch that more now.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man. Like I thought it was breathtaking. To be honest, it was really well
I'm
done.
waiting to see that straw that breaks the camel's back. Like are we going to be able
Oh.
to see that final flip?
He has a moment in the second episode where you're just like, oh, this is it.
Can we all just agree that ultimately we owe all of this to Jon Favreau and how he ripped that universe out of where it was and brought it into the 2020s, and told stories in such a way that were now impactful again, right? And
Yeah.
they don't have to be giant, big, again, huge heroes and huge villains. You don't have to have that. And he saved it. I mean, God bless Jon Favreau. He's on the Mount Rushmore.
With what he did with Mandalorian to kind of jumpstart this small screen storytelling, basically making a spaghetti western, was just brilliant. And this kind of flows into that same territory, like Andor, just the way that they're telling it. The one that I keep comparing it to, because one of my favorite Marvel movies was actually the Captain America Winter Soldier, and it's because it didn't feel like a superhero movie. It felt like a spy movie. And it was very personal. It was a very personal, yes, there was global conflict, but it was a very personal story about this guy and his friend and what happens when they're on this dividing line.
Yeah.
And I loved how that story was telling. And that's what these stories are telling. It's very personal. Like I said, it's a very smaller world. Yes, there's a global conflict, well, universal conflict in this situation, but there's universal conflict going around them. But that's not what matters. What matters is this guy's story.
The character development is better too.
Yes.
Because when you have less things going on and things blowing up and speeders going by and gonk droids gonking, you actually have to focus on proper character development, and that's what I really enjoyed about Andor also was you had to learn what new characters were all about. You had to learn all these new people, and it was worth the second time I watched it was worth it because I was paying attention.
Well, and some of these characters show up again. That's the thing. They show up in the future. They do exist later. But you kind of see where their foundation is.
Right.
Yeah,
And I
young
love
young Mon Mothma's story,
Oh,
even though it's
so
just
awesome.
kind of it's a part of it, but it seems a little bit ancillary. Like you didn't have to have her, but she's there, and it's good that she's there. I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, she just she shows up in the original. She shows up in 1 or in 4, and it's like, oh, it's Mon Mothma. Great.
Right.
And she says many Bothan spies died giving us this information. And that's like the depth of what you get from her.
Yeah.
Right.
What they do with her here is nothing short of fantastic.
Yeah, to kind of see where she got
Mhm.
to that point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the
Why she was the
disillusionment.
sad character who, that whole scene always mesmerized me in the first one, which, when she says the many Bothan spies, and there's this, pregnant pause there where she actually has the emotion just swoop over her face.
Mhm.
And you want to know why that is the whole time, right? Like, since I was a little kid, I've always thought, who are these people? And now you're getting to know who these people are, which is really cool.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
why there is that pause. Like how they were able to fit that in to this story is really kind of cool.
Yeah.
Oh,
I guess that's our Andor discussion also, isn't it?
yeah, pretty much.
Which wasn't on
It is now.
It is now.
I wrote it in. I kind of feel like that's a good place to cap it for the night. I know we were going to talk about the Lord of the Rings series on Amazon, but you know what?
That's just
It'll
gonna
be
me
there
pissing
next
more
week.
people off.
Tank does like to make the nerds mad, and it's better if we can spread that out.
Yeah, let's push that on to the next one because I have some interesting opinions about Lord of the Rings now.
Well, I know you
might
didn't
share
like
those
the movies,
opinions.
so
Yeah, I was going to say, interesting, besides what we already know about you, the fact that you hated the movies.
Yes, it's very much connected to that idea.
Okay.
All right. So before we go, want to thank everybody for understanding that we had to take some time off for personal shit, and we're back now. We'll try to do every other week as previously planned, but who knows? You may see more of us, and maybe we'll talk about some sports shit too, since my brother is an idiot is also currently on hiatus.
Yeah, well, the NFL season's already over, so we don't need to worry about that.
Well, but hockey just started.
But we have a quarterback who likes to do high knees down the aisleway of
Likes to
airport
piss off his teammates, apparently.
for 6 hours. of a flight.
I'm not. I think that's much ado about nothing. That's a guy who's rehabbing a hamstring that's partially torn. I don't know if I know just about everybody here has flown long distances. That ain't fun. They're not all sitting in first class. That's a charter with 100 and something people on it. And that's a 7-hour flight or 8-hour flight. And
It's 8, yeah.
yeah, having flown the Atlantic, I should have probably been doing high knees the few times that I've done it. Like I can't sit in a car for more than 3 hours without having to get out and stretch my hamstring. So I can just imagine what it's like doubling
Given
that with a guy
given the
with a
turmoil that seems to exist with that team currently, maybe just hang out and talk to your teammates for a little bit instead of rehabbing in the middle of the plane.
hamstring. Who said he didn't? This is just a story that somebody said.
Yeah, this is a
Right.
story coming from someone on the team.
Yeah.
For
Well,
some
and
reason.
also Russell Wilson said it too.
Yeah, they asked him.
They asked him and he said
yeah.
it.
Yeah, they
And
said,
they
how
said-
was the flight? He said, how was your
They-
flight? And they said, what'd you do? And then he laid out this whole thing out.
There's at least one Bronco who's actually said that that actually happened to in the public, and that was KJ Hamlin. But
Mm-hmm.
anyways, that's enough.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later.
Yep.
All right, so we'll be back with more nerd shit, with sportsy type things. Hey, you know what? I at least know I don't call them costumes the way one of my sisters does. What color costumes do the Broncos wear? Sorry. Anywho, but we'll be back to irritate you all. Tank will piss you off because that's what little brothers are good for.
Yeah.
And until then, drop us a line. Let us know what you'd like to hear about. We may or may not care, but we'll pretend to.
We'll acknowledge your existence.
We will acknowledge you and maybe talk about what you want to talk about, or at least talk shit about it.
Exactly.
It's all
If
part
it-
of acknowledging your existence.
If it interests us, we'll talk about it. Choose wisely.
Or if I think I can piss somebody off.
Yes.
All right. And on that note, we'll see you next time.
Adios.